Hey, it's Sam back for video number 2 in this series, and this one is called Your Greatness and Challenges, Planets in Signs. And by the end of this, I'm going to give you a great chart reading template where you can start to look at your planets in their signs in your chart and really help you conceptually understand your greatness and how every aspect and facet of your being is steeped in greatness. There are certain energies that where the greatness flows more easily based on your past karma and the way they're disposed in the chart. Other ones where it takes a little more effort to access the greatness, but you're always near that reservoir of greatness, that flow and that current of greatness and divine power and wisdom. So this will be very pivotal in you understanding planets in signs. One of the most basic ways of understanding astrology chart reading is to understand the planets in the signs. So we start where we started last time with who are you really beyond your body and mind. This is where we need to start with everything in life and ask ourselves why we're doing anything, studying anything. Bring yourself into the present moment. Ask, who are you in body and mind, beyond your family, your possessions? Who are you beyond everything you're going to lose? And again, that might sound stark, but we have to make peace with life, and we need to start with a place that's real. And saying that you're going to lose everything, again, also means that the only things that you can really lose are things you never had. So it also shows the attachments that you have to things that are not in your control, and attachment to those things that are not in your control are causing you a lot of stress right now. Anything you're stressed about is because you think you have more control over it than you do. Let it go and open up to the infinite possibility. And again, we start with who are you? Generate your birth chart. And again, as it says, over the next week or so, you will learn the true power it holds. We're going to go deep into that today and start to really unravel this. And then we're going to build on that in the future videos. Again, just enter your details, drag the chart to your desktop, or take a screenshot of it if you're on your phone. Again, knowing your Vedic astrology chart equals knowing yourself. Like we said the last time, the more you know and understand your chart, the more you know and understand yourself, and the more love, money, health, contentment, peace of mind you have. And I started, again, this class the same way because I want you to understand that the chart, this birth chart, is not just some piece of paper or some like thing that you look at. It's a portrait of your karma and how your self, your true self, beyond all attributes, beyond all modifications and emotions and attachments, how that spacious, infinite, liberated self that is not of this world has come down into the realm of karma, and you experience that through a brain. You have a brain, you have a nervous system. We can understand that on a cognitive level through neuroscience. We have a thing called the triune brain, the reptile, mammal, and animal brain, which many times is in conflict with each other. Once our karma comes down and gets processed through a nervous system, we have a lot of tendencies. They're called samskaras in yogic language, in Vedic language. The chart is a portrait of your samskaras, of your mental impressions. When I'm looking at someone's chart, I'm reading their mind. We're going to be reading the mind of someone later in this class, and really understanding how they think and how they feel and the actions they take as a result, and how to become liberated, that path home, which is also shown. But we take that mind and that neuroscientific stew and we project that into the world and collapse the infinite possibilities of this moment into one specific thing, right? So, and we keep doing that over and over again based on these tendencies that are shown in the chart, right? But there are infinite possibilities within that. But we don't always feel that way. We feel trapped in our karma. We feel like our karma is lording over us, but it's actually the thing that also sets us free if we understand these things. So again, today we're going to pick up where we left off the last time. But this is still the origin of the whole thing. Spirit descends into form through our brain. We project that brain out into the world and create. We seem to keep creating the same things over and over again because of our mental tendencies. That's what the karma is. And we're trying to evolve that karma in ways that are empowering, not just through painful mistakes. So we're going to talk about this quite a bit today, because there are ways to evolve that don't just revolve around making the same painful mistakes over and over again. Right? So again, you remember where we left off, there were a bunch of universal principles like karma and dharma and elements and gunas and planets and concepts that were making everything work. And if you don't remember that, go back and watch that previous video, because we outlined all this. All these graphics were in that previous video: karma and the archer, the astrology, myths, cosmology, the real implications of the sky, spirit taken form, how life is just a simple game. So the universal principles that create yoga, Ayurveda, Vedic astrology, that descend from the cosmos, they form the basis of your spirit, psychology, mind, body, and ego, these universal principles. Stated simply, they're the specifics of your karma, which includes your path to redemption and liberation. Karma isn't just, well, God, what is it? I don't know. What is it? We know what it is. It's a simple rule that operates based on the things you do. They come back and you keep re-experiencing them in layers upon layers. And we understand the mechanics of how it works. They work through three qualities of nature, which are called three gunas in Indian thinking. Body, mind, spirit is one way to understand them. In Western terms, body, which is called tamasic, which has more to do with form and structure. Like this thing has a preponderance of tamas because it's an object, right? Your physical body is very tamasic. Then there's what's called rajasic, or mind, which is very emotional. The rajasic guna is very emotional, has a lot of energy. And then there's the sattvic guna, which is very loving and peaceful and calm. Think of that state of peace and calm, tranquility, freedom. And then that's called sattva. And then there's emotion, which sometimes happy, sometimes sad. It's like a roller coaster. That's called rajas. And then there's form, and where things get stuck, like the body. The body is heavy. It needs to sleep, and that's it. You need to sleep. It needs what it needs, and you need to take care of it. That's called tamas. So all three of those gunas have their what's called dharmic, or truthful and correct expression. And our karma revolves around these three things, and also 5 elements. As you can see over here, we have this guna and element. These are foundational building blocks of Vedic thinking, and assessing these most important factors and evaluating them in the right order is the key to doing astrology correctly and to understanding yourself. Now notice what I said: assessing these important factors and evaluating them in the right order is key to doing astrology correctly and understanding yourself. The right order is also important. This is where a lot of people get mixed up. They're like, oh, I understand these things, the planet signs, houses, this, nakshatras, what about this, what about this, what about this? And there's no order to any of it. You have to do things in the right order also, just like anything else. Just like if you're, we use the example of checkers or whatever. You're playing the game, you don't just randomly move them. Things follow in an order. Or if you're doing something like, I use the example of making an omelet, right? You might know all the things to do, but if you do them in the wrong order, it makes no sense. You're not going to make an omelet, you're just going to make a mess. You got to do things in the right order also, and in the right measure, right? You don't say, okay, I'm going to get 200 eggs, then I'm going to, no, you don't do this. You do things, the right things, you gather the right ingredients, then you do them in the right order. So the ingredients first are things like the planets. These are the component qualities of your karma and your nature. Again, it's only random because you don't know it, because you don't understand it. Once you understand, oh, okay, these are the energies. The specific energies of your karma revolves around the energy of the sun evolving, the energy of the moon evolving, Mars evolving, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn. These are the evolutionary principles in you that are evolving. And we're going to talk about them down here. We're going to talk about all of these evolutionary processes of the planets, their exaltation signs, and how exactly all these energies in you evolve, and how that energy flows into the ocean. That wisdom is always there. Sometimes it's right on that flow, right on the current. Sometimes it's a little further up and it takes a little more effort to get to the current. But all of the energy is there in you. It's all there. Again, like I said at the beginning, I wasn't just trying to make you feel good. I've done more than 200 readings a year for close to 20 years, and I've seen planets that have some of the worst conditions produce some of the best results simply because the person understood it, they were intentional with it, and the timing arrived to when that thing woke up. So these are universal powers that you have, and these energies are always evolving in us. So first it's the planets and how they evolve. Again, and they evolve through gunas, body, mind, and spirit. They evolve from that level through the elements of the earth, water, air, and fire. Again, these are foundational principles of life, whether you know it or not, right? Your body needs water. Just think about it like that. You're so complicated. Oh, what about this thing? What about that thing? Okay, so stop drinking water and see how much all that matters, right? You need water. You need food. You need warmth. You need, breath. These are the four elements of earth, and there's also the fifth element of ether or space, which is consciousness and thinking. But first, your body needs to live. And most of your karma is shared karma with every other being. That includes every mammal, even every insect, every tree. They need the same elements that you need. So most of our karma is shared with each other as humans, with other animals. This is why when we watch other animals suffer or other people suffer, we feel it, because we have the same karma as they do on a larger scale. We tend to focus on our own kind of narcissistic, myopic, personal history and obsess over that like it's the whole world, and it's not. It's in many ways that all the specifics of this birth chart here, this birth chart is kind of the illusion that we get trapped in and stuck in. We obsess over it, and we need to stop obsessing over it. I should say you need to stop obsessing over it and start evolving. And by the way, evolving means stop obsessing over that too. Because yeah, you've suffered. We've all suffered. So as we come to know life in a more transcendent way, we know ourselves also in a more transcendent way, which means to transcend all of that attachment to the limited self. The energies through which that evolves are these planets: Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn, through these gunas, body, mind, spirit, and also through these elements. These are the foundational principles of Sankhya philosophy I talked about last week. But then there's also things like the modalities, which are shown in the zodiac signs. We have cardinal, fixed, and dual. We have the castes, very important distinction as well: warrior caste, worker, merchant, teacher. We also have what are called the four Purush arthas, which we're going to talk about in the next video when we get into the astrology houses. But you could see how when the planets come down from this, we had this in the first video, we had this spirit takes form part. Remember this? Life and spirit takes form, comes down. And then the next part of that poster is this. The spirit comes down into the planets, the forces of intelligence, and the astrology signs, how the planets feel, and the planets rule the signs. Sun rules Leo, Moon rules Cancer, Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. They're the rulers. This is the archetype and the architecture of the zodiac and of the astrology chart. It's not random. You have planets and you have the signs where they inhabit in a zodiac chart, in an astrology chart, and you have the signs that they rule. Sometimes you get the planet in the sign that it rules, and it's very powerful. Most of the time, it's not in a sign that it rules, and it has a middling effect. And those are the specifics of the things that we're dealing with. We're going to have a case study later to show you that. But you can see this is the architecture. Again, Sun rules Leo, Moon rules Cancer. The energy of it comes down this way. And as it says here, the planets are the forces of intelligence and wisdom in you, and the astrology signs are how the planets feel. It's how it feels to you. The signs are very psychological. And because we're very psychological, we have a strong affinity toward the qualities of the zodiac signs. We feel, our life feels a lot like what's happening in those zodiac signs. And those planets in the zodiac signs have a lot to do with our attachments and our emotions and our karma that we keep generating, and that perspective that we keep, pushing out from that top diagram. That's why I use that top diagram again, because a lot of these planets in the signs where they are in the birth chart really feels like, no, this is me. I'm really all of these emotions that I'm projecting out into the world and then creating the world on, based on. So again, Mars rules Aries and Scorpio. The outer quality of Mars is expressed externally through Aries, the inner psychological, emotional through Scorpio. Then the next planet is Mercury, called Buddha, who rules masculine and feminine signs. Gemini is the masculine sign, Virgo is the feminine sign. Again, but Mercury rules that. His energy comes down from the heavens and rules these two sections of the sky. That's his domain. Mercury rules them, Gemini and Virgo. Then we have Jupiter next, Guru, right? He's the great teacher, the great mystic, and his energy gets expressed psychologically how he feels. Sagittarius, masculine, external, fiery, pushed out into the world, religion, fired up. And Pisces, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, internal quality of Jupiter, of Guru. That inner wisdom that's very emotional and devotional. That's that quality of Jupiter, of Guru. Then we have Venus, Shukra is the name. Her energy comes down from the cosmic realm into your mind and consciousness and rules Libra in a masculine way, where she initiates relationship, compromise, judgment, or compromise and judgment isn't a very good word. That's more Jupiter, but balance and harmony is what I should say. And Taurus, internally reflective, psychologically, in a very earthy way, where we want to grab a hold of some of that good stuff and keep experiencing it for ourselves. Then Saturn comes last, Shani. He rules his energy of restriction, time, and pressure, and the awareness of loss comes in the form of Capricorn, internally, psychologically, and Aquarius, externally, in the realm of ideas and social structures. So again, the planets are the forces of intelligence, and their energies filter down into the astrology signs. And again, these basics aren't basic at all. Even though I've been studying astrology and doing it full-time for decades, I still get the most insight from exploring deeper ways to connect the fundamental concepts together, concentrating and focusing on the most important chart factors and dharmic principles that more accurately reflect reality is the key. So again, this is a kind of gift that I made from a chart that I did in a class that I did last year. And we're going to talk about some of that today, the flow of energy through what I call the meta pyramid of planets and signs. But just real quick, the biggest problem that people have with not learning astrology correctly is because there are complexities in all of these different principles take a lot of concentration, people don't learn things in the proper context, and they really trade the chance to have a nuanced understanding of their karma for a harsh judgment. So that's a sort of trade-off. Instead of understanding things in a nuanced and uplifting way, there's a harsh judgment associated. You could tell when someone doesn't really understand astrology because everything they say or think is a series of black and white, good or bad, right or wrong statements. So it's like, well, is this good or bad? I have this. What does that mean? And it's all very much about themselves. Again, and their chart, and worried about all of these things. So, in other words, it's a lot of judgment, not a lot of interpretations, when in fact, astrology shows life accurately. And nothing in life is simple or black or white. No one likes being judged. How do you like being judged? Well, you shouldn't judge your karma either based on a limited understanding of astrology, just like you wouldn't judge your body based on a limited knowledge of medicine. No, you would go to a doctor, or you can become a doctor, or you can learn it. But you need to be careful of just judging things harshly this way. And again, in this way, bad or lazy astrology is no better than bad or lazy thinking in general. But it can be kind of damaging because see people all the time justify not growing or developing in their life, judging others harshly, buying into fear-based fatalistic spirituality, all validated in their mind by some degraded form of Vedic astrology that they're believing. Again, maybe it's because they're studying it themselves in a very kind of limited way and just sort of trying to get some interpretations about their chart. Or they have this, amazing astrology friend who tells them stuff and they're like, oh, wow. And it's all very either really woo-woo, not accurate, or it's very harsh. Oh, this is a bad one. It's usually a lot of that bad stuff. The sati or the this or the that, or this is good, this is bad. Honestly, I don't care if people do this. I don't think it's the end of the world. Again, it's better that people are looking to something mystical and cosmic, and I'm not trying to insult people who, just because they haven't gone full-blown, but you need to be careful with this. It's a wasted opportunity, as it says here, an opportunity to actually understand the subtlety and nuance of yourself and the cosmos itself. Vedic astrology is meant to be learned. You can learn it, and you're meant to know it. You're meant to know it correctly. And so, again, it's like going to a great spiritual guru and just asking them how to make more money or how to be famous. Or, again, there's nothing wrong with that, and the great guru will tell you because they'll try to help you, and they know that's where you're at. But this great guru holds the essence of everything you could ever want. So why would you go there asking for something? My guru Amma tells a story about, it's like if you offer a child a handful of chocolate or a handful of gold, they'll take the chocolate because they don't know the value of the gold. They don't know that you could take the gold and buy a ton of chocolate. And this is the same thing. Rather than waste your time being titillated or entertained by astrology or just looking at your chart or grabbing things that are out of context, out of order, random, and not going deep, you should really concentrate and try to go deep. Why not spend the same amount of time and drill down deeply into the truth of this science and penetrate to the very mystery of life itself, to the very mystery of you? And you've probably heard me talk about this and call it snacking, where we're just kind of, now I'm interested in astrology and I've been studying it, and it's really just getting overstimulated. But here's what happens, and I want this to be the point of this part, is that what happens is when you're just kind of snacking and grabbing, it's like digging a lot of little shallow holes. Imagine if you want to dig a well. What you want to do to dig a well is to dig one deep hole that's focused and efficient. You just spend this energy and dig straight down, and you keep digging and keep digging and keep digging until you hit the water. When you do that, that leads to thinking, like let's say it would take you 10 hours to do this. And that leads to thinking eventually, wow, that was easy. And I was making steady progress the whole time. And the system and the equipment worked really well. And there is water down there. I kept digging the well, and I eventually hit the well. But what if you instead dig many shallow holes, unfocused and inefficient? It leads to thinking, wow, this is really hard. Why am I not making any progress? Oh, Vedic astrology is so hard. I'm digging this little hole, digging this hole, watch this thing, watch that thing, this person said this, that one says that, and I know it's bad, but what does it all mean? Again, and then you also wind up thinking, these systems and methods, this stuff doesn't really work, because, well, this one says that one says that, they all contradict each other, I don't even know if this stuff even works. I'm not even sure if there's water down there at all, right? And you can see the illustration here. The water is still down there. You just need to go down here and hit the water. But if you're digging a lot of shallow holes, it's like you're not getting really any closer. Just So understand this metaphor and really contemplate concentrating your energy, whether it's with me or with someone else, so that you can really learn this skillfully. So we're going to focus on the foundation of the interpretations today, and the foundations are literally planets in signs. And you can see here that I have these descriptions of the Sun, Moon, Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, Venus, Saturn here. And these are descriptions right from Bharat Parashara Sastra. Sun, honey, yellow-eyed. Is the sun square and radiantly pure? Oh, twice born of Pitta nature, intelligent, masculine, but with little hair, oh, twice born. And you can see it has these qualities. He's warrior, he's cruel energy, he's fiery, and he's sattvic. Now, each of the planets have these gunas, these qualities, these elements associated with them. And you see that I have them broken out here. And these are all the evolutionary forces in you. And each of these planets are evolving. The sun is evolving from something that's very heavy and tamasic energetically in you, where you feel very attached. My power, my strength. Or where it's the moon, my feelings, my emotions, my family, very possessive. Mars, my battles that I have to win. Mercury, my ideas, my, using my skills from me, etc., to something transcendent, to something beyond, to where the sun is the source of light within you that's just generous, without fear. Same way with the moon, where your feelings aren't just a lot of emotions, it's devotion, it's pure love that's extended to all, where there's no fear of being mistreated and all of those kinds of things that really can inhibit the moon. Mars winds up being fighting the right fight, fighting the good fight. Not getting into battles with people, but having the discipline and courage to take on the real challenges in life. So all the planets are evolving. This evolutionary process of planets is actually seen by their exaltation signs. So the evolutionary process is a core tenet of everything I teach because it's central to life on Earth. We are evolving whether we know it or not. Sometimes, and usually, that evolution is through painful mistakes, but it doesn't have to be that way. Vedic astrology learned correctly can help us immensely to evolve skillfully and consciously, not painfully and unconsciously. Like I said before, we're evolving whether we know it or not. But many times we get evolved, but many times we evolve and, through just painful mistakes. And eventually we start to learn and grow, and our evolution comes through making all these mistakes. Unconsciously, unskillfully. So the highest lessons of the planets can be seen as a progression from the debilitated positions to the exalted ones, regardless of where the planet is in the chart. It will evolve according to these principles. So the sun evolves from the qualities of Libra to Aries. It's debilitated in Libra, and it evolves from those qualities of Libra to the qualities of Aries. That's the evolutionary principle of the sun, regardless of where it is in the chart. That's just the nature of the sun. By the way, this is in the Brihad Parashara Horasastra. It says what these positions are in the chapter on the planets. So these are qualities of the planet. And so for the sun, it's where we learn to trust our own power instinctively, Aries qualities, rather than look for it as validation in others. So the true power of the sun is where we learn to trust our own power instinctively rather than look for it as validation in others, which is the debilitated sun, archetypally, as it relates to Libra. Now again, this has to do with the sun no matter where it is in the chart. That's just the nature of the sun evolving from I'm going to claim my own power rather than it's okay with you if I'm powerful, isn't it? It's okay with you if I'm powerful. When that's the sun, when that's the way we act with our solar energy, it leads to frustration, and we wind up even resenting the people that we're looking for validation from. In fact, we have a case study chart today to show you that, where we can see this person's sun in crisis. The moon evolves from the qualities of Scorpio to Taurus, where we learn to trust our own heart, Taurus, and know intuitively that our peace comes from things more stable, Taurus, solid, and less emotional and intense, Scorpio. So it evolves from that intense Scorpio to that stable Taurus. Mars evolves from the qualities of Cancer to Capricorn, where we learn to be less emotional about our battles and to choose them wisely and strategically, not resolve things based on emotion. So again, Mars is where we're very strategic about our battles and say, is this really the right thing to do? Whereas when we're impulsive and, no, I'm going to fight this because we're all emotional, that's the difficult quality of Mars. And again, regardless of where he is in the chart, that's the evolutionary principle. Mercury evolves from the qualities of Pisces to Virgo, where we learn to be precise and detailed in our thinking rather than blur all the details of the story together haphazardly, then wind up adrift. Again, Mercury has the debilitation point in Pisces, where it's all kind of blurred together and we kind of say things that are kind of ramble, to Virgo, where we're very precise about what we say, and it's measured and it's accurate. Don't you appreciate when people speak clearly and correctly rather than expect you to figure out what the heck they mean? Right? Jupiter evolves from the qualities of Capricorn to Cancer, where we learn our great teachings and gurus must be anchored in the heart. Cancer, not in some external situation we're trying to control, which is Capricorn. Venus evolves from the qualities of Virgo to Pisces, where we learn to find happiness in all things. That's where all the details can blur together in that Venus stuff. Yeah, everything makes me happy. Rather than a fussy unhappiness with people and every detail not lining up the way we want it. See, Venus is debilitated in Virgo, where, again, it doesn't have to be there, but the qualities of Venus, when they wind up being difficult, it's when we're constantly finding fault with everything. The highest Venus is where we accept and find that joy in all things. Saturn evolves from the qualities of Aries to Libra, where we learn empathy, forgiveness, and humility with others rather than going it alone, thinking we can conquer our fears as an island unto ourselves. So again, this is the evolution from Aries to Libra, where empathy, forgiveness, humility with others rather than, you did this to me, oh, I'll get you back. Which is Saturn and Aries. So you want to understand that, again, like I said at the beginning, and like I just restated here, these evolutionary principles and placements aren't chart specific. This is just the nature of the planet, regardless of where it is in the chart. And regardless, even if it's difficult, if it's debilitated, or if it has a problem, it's still one of these great currents. Right, and I use this illustration, and again, this is from a recent class. Even though I've been doing astrology for 20 years, I'm still very inspired about rethinking and re-understanding all these forces in a more empowered way. So the ocean is like that consciousness that's all pervasive, and these planets are like these great rivers that lead to the ocean. All right, and let's say someone has a really powerful Mars, like let's say it's exalted Mars. It's right here, right on the river. That current of Mars is flowing with a lot of power right near the mouth of this great bay, which goes into the ocean, right? So the access to that flow of Mars energy is really strong. Let's say he's exalted or he's in his own sign. But let's say he's not. Let's say he's, quite weak, and maybe he's all the way back here. It's still the same current, but it's maybe back here, where it's kind of landlocked. It's kind of stuck in its own little world, right? He's fighting all these little battles with his family and this kind of thing and that kind of thing. It doesn't mean he's not still connected to the flow. It just means he's landlocked, or he's stuck further inland where the flow isn't as strong. So that means he needs to get in a boat, and he needs to maybe take a trip and a journey and sacrifice a little bit and move down here a little bit. Maybe not physically move, but you know what I mean. Do some inner work and he has to work harder to get closer to that flow. But the flow is still there. It's still there. And in fact, a lot of the suffering that could happen by being landlocked and being kind of stuck and isolated in it, or whatever it is, will be that karma of the planet that's in a difficult dignity. Again, you can use that same theme in all things here, that regardless of how powerful the planet is in the chart, it's still part of this great current that's flowing into the ocean. When the planets have higher dignity, though, like when they're in their own signs, when they're actually in those exalted signs and whatnot, they're more plugged in and they're much closer to that and that they have a sort of effortless grace and connection, which allows them, they're already much closer to that flow of cosmic ocean. Like you would see that this is a chart here that I designed to kind of illustrate this, It says dignity, manifestation, and evolution. Planetary dignity is one of the main ways that we learn to evaluate these things. Is planets can be exalted or in their own sign. That's when they have the most intelligence naturally. Just like when you're in your own house, right? You're in your own house, all your stuff is around, you know where everything is. You're very efficient. But let's say you're somewhere else. Let's say you're in a place where you don't really know where things are. You can't get as much done. Well, and then let's say you're in a place, that's kind of a neutral place. Or, let's say that you're at a friend's place. A friend is better than an enemy. You can still get some things done. Your friend will help you a little bit, but it's not like being in your own place, right? That's what the dignities are like. But then let's say there's other places where you're actually in a great enemy dignity, or where you're literally like debilitated, where you go somewhere and the people are against you, right? That's much harder. Then how easy is it for you to get your things done? Well, it's pretty hard, right? Because the people where you're living, again, the planets live in these signs, and they wind up having that kind of a relationship, and it's almost like the owner of the sign is working against them, right? So this is what those difficult dignities are like, and it takes that much more effort, like we would see up here with these sort of planets that are landlocked. Like if it's in an enemy dignity or debilitated, it's kind of like it's up here. It's fighting these battles. So it still has the current, but it has to work against it. It has to work against the inertia of that karma. And again, that karma from the chart is like inertia from your past lives and other things that you've done, that you've brought into this lifetime. Again, it's just like a lot of gravity to it. It's like habit gravity. And this is the way I really look at karma, and you should look at it too. It's not a sentence. It's not a closed-ended sentence. It's like a habit. You have this habitual programming. It's just a habit. You need to break the habit. And this is what astrology does. It helps you break the habit of habitually seeing everything this way. Something happens, triggered, bam, I see it that way. Now, other things, it's like, something happens and I see it this way. Yay, great. This is the planet that's in the good dignity. You have that habit with it. You habitually find, okay, well, I'll just do this. The ones that are difficult, you habitually go, hard, not going to work, and all that talk keeps happening, all that mechanical talk. And so, again, this is why I say it's just a habit. Karma is really just like a habit. And so these gunas, this tamasic energy, is where things are stuck when they're in the debilitated, the great enemy, or the enemy dignities. They have problems understanding the nature of the planet as a karaka and manifesting what it rules. So again, this is a little more detailed and nuanced to go into, but this was from an advanced course that I just did. But it shows the evolution of the planets through the gunas and the dignities. And you can see that regardless of where the planets are, they come down from this cosmic nature. And this, the consciousness of the planets is really mostly shown in their dignities. And the purest nature of that planet can now then lead to something that's much more cosmic and much more transcendent when it's in the higher dignities naturally. If they're in the lower dignities in the astrology chart, then we have to put forth more effort to elevate them towards something that's more cosmic and transcendent. And often we just spend a lot of time with the worldly nature of those planets. And again, so this is an overview of the astrology chart and all of these different qualities. You see, we have this sort of key under here where we have the planet and the rulers and whatnot. So if we take each sign here, you see Aries, it's red, which means that it's ruled by Mars. You see Mars is the ruler. This means Rajasic, the heart on fire means Rajas, or passion. It's a fiery element. It's a movable sign, which means it's looking to go up, it's looking to start things, and it's a warrior. You can see the key down here. Taurus is ruled by Venus. It's also Rajas. It's earth. It's fixed, and it's worker. So you could go by and look at all of these different things in the signs to understand these gunas and elements and planetary rulers. These are the most important things in the zodiac signs. As you see, they're color-coded to the colors of the planets. Jupiter is yellow, Saturn is blue, Mars is red, Venus is pink, Mercury is green, Leo is orange. The sun is orange and the moon is white. So you can ponder this, and what I've given you here is a way to structure a basic reading of your chart based on the planetary currents in their signs and how close they are to that full current. Maybe they're landlocked a little bit, maybe they're right on the cusp of that ocean itself, like a planet in its own sign, is going to be like right there, ready to blast into its highest expression. So here's a good reading template, quickly compiled from these ideas. After you put together these sentences from the template, you can then synthesize those ideas into a separate thought or idea, but this template can serve as a means to prompt these ideas. So the way it works is you would say the sun, and then you would put is the indicator of, and then sun, identity, moon, feeling, Mars, personal strength, Mercury, intelligence, etc. As this process evolves, and then here are sentences to extract the essence of how this energy is evolving in you. Again, this is regardless of the sign that it's in. And then you say it's in the sign of, and then you choose the sign and then sort of mix that energy with the sign interpretations here as well. So again, this is just a way to kind of start you to understanding these things, so that you can really start to approach your chart and also other people's charts in a kind of sensible way. And again, it's not perfect, but it gives you a great place to start, especially with understanding that all the planets, regardless of their dignity and the sign they're in, are evolutionary forces. Regardless of where the sun is in your chart, the first sentences will always be the same. And by the way, this is what I tell my students, and this is what I recommend you learn first. Before you learn, Saturn, that's one of the bad ones, sati, this is debilitated, this is that. And you get ungrounded with what you're saying because you don't really know how to interpret it. One thing you can know for sure, and I always tell my students this, and I always tell people to understand, that you can understand and learn this divine force in you. So that's one thing that you're going to learn right now. Again, so the sun is the indicator of truthful identity, transcendent identity. As this process evolves, you learn to trust your own power instinctively rather than look for it as validation in others. We just saw that sentence. So just understanding this, how can this change your life? You think the sun, it's this, it's career, it's this, it's that. It's the part of you. You need to learn to instinctively trust your own light and your own power. Not look for it as validation in others. When you're looking for validation in others, the sun part of you suffers. Okay? Looking for validation in others, the sun part of you is the part that is suffering. It doesn't mean you have to not listen to others. It doesn't mean that at all. In fact, until you feel empowered in yourself, you're not listening to others anyway. You're just using them to feel good about yourself. So these energies are absolutely crystal clear. There's no error. There's no niggling with it's kind of like that. No, it's exactly like this. And really nothing else. This is only how it works. The sun is only going to work this way. And relative to how much you are following and trusting your own power instinctively, which means to act upon the thing that lights you up. Relative to how well you act upon the thing that lights you up, that sun in you is evolving either consciously or unconsciously through all the painful mistakes you make with it because you're not doing it. And you're looking for someone else to validate you. So you learn this eventually, but you learn it through painful mistakes. All that stuff I said before applies to every one of these first indicators. The moon is the indicator of feeling. And it shows that you need to learn to trust your own heart and know intuitively that your peace comes from things more stable, solid, and less emotional and intense. This has nothing to do with where the moon is in the chart. This is just your nature. This is your emotional nature, as shown by the moon. And that emotional nature needs to learn to trust your own heart and know intuitively your peace comes from things more stable, solid, and less emotional and intense. But instead, no, you love your drama. You love those emotions. Oh, what a passionate, emotional, oh yeah. Face it. That's what it is. Because you love all the drama. You love all the emotion and the passion and the feeling and, oh, this thing. Regardless of where the moon is in the chart. You look at the chart to see how this possibility and how this potential is being lived. So again, when the planet is in its own sign or something, then it's very close to, it understands that lesson really well. Like again, if the moon is in Cancer or it's exalted or the sun is in Aries or Leo, then these things are very natural. Sun in Aries or Leo, then the person is much closer to trusting their own power and not looking for validation in others. Yeah, that sun is then, they get that lesson. The moon is stable in its own sign or something. Then yes, they intuitively trust and know that peace, that sort of peace of mind comes from within. It's not in all the drama, right? So this is why those dignities play out this way, because then the planet is very close, again, to that river, to use the river analogy. It's kind of right there already. When it's in other places, it's like, oh, I'm not so sure. The sun is like in, Aquarius, and it's like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. Like I have this sun in Gemini, okay? It's not in Leo or Aries. It's like, okay, maybe all of my ideas about my power or blah, 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 whatever. It's not near the river. It's kind of going through a lot of ideas and questioning, well, maybe this, maybe that. I don't know. Right? So, but I have a couple that are. Like I have Saturn is in Capricorn. So he's like, Saturn is the indicator of commitments, right? And it says, learn empathy, forgiveness, and humility with others rather than going it alone, thinking you can conquer your fears as an island unto yourself. It's very true. I had to learn forgiveness, empathy, compassion. I had to forgive a lot of people, a lot of things. It just naturally happens. Saturn's in Capricorn. Can't hold a grudge. Can't if I tried. Just can't, right? Again, so he's in Capricorn. He's very close to that current. Also have Mercury in Gemini. Again, so the Mercury stuff. He's in his own signs. Precise, detailed in your thinking rather than blur all the details. Jupiter's also in his own sign. Learn the great teachings and gurus must be anchored in the heart, not in some external situation you're trying to control. Yeah, so we all have some that are closer than others. So then we bring the sign in, and the sign then makes it a little more complex. Let me look at the chart here, and we have Will Smith as an example. So we see his chart, and we see that he has a Taurus rising. We're going to talk about the ascendant more in the next video, because once we bring the ascendant in, then all these signs and planets and signs become houses as well. But here we're just going to look at the signs, though. And I put a couple here. I'll make this a little bigger so we can see it better. For Will Smith, it says, Mars is the indicator of personal strength. As this process evolves, you learn to be less emotional about your battles and learn to choose them wisely and strategically, not resolve or end things based on emotion. That's just for everyone in Mars. That's your Mars also. It is in the sign of Leo. So that function of him shows that this indication of resolving battles strategically gets filtered through his identity and personality, focuses the energy on yourself by seeking higher virtues expressed in an individualistic, active way. So that means that his relationship with Mars and how he learns to be less emotional about his battles and whatnot goes through the sign of Leo, where his identity and personality focuses that Mars energy on himself, and he's like, yes, these battles, I'm invested in them. And he seeks higher virtues expressed in an individualistic, active way. So again, he's learning to choose his battles wisely and to focus those battles on things that are higher and more worthy, because that's what Leo is about. And the power of his individuality is very much there. He also has Jupiter there. That's why I put Jupiter is also there. So Jupiter's also in Leo, where his identity and personality focuses the energy on his self by seeking higher virtues expressed in an individualistic way. So Leo is where we'll take this energy. And again, Jupiter is also powerful in Leo. So again, this was the one about the guru. So again, his quality of guru, Jupiter, is the indicator of faith and teachings. And it learns your great teachings and gurus must be anchored in the heart, not in some external situation you're trying to control. So again, that's the nature of Jupiter, and the way he experiences it, because it's in Leo, those gurus that must be anchored in the heart, shows that his identity and personality focuses that energy on himself. So again, he, through the power of his own life experience, by seeking higher virtues expressed in an individualistic, active way. So again, he experiences these teachings very individually, very, and becomes very empowered by them and looks to empower them and express them with a lot of confidence and whatnot. In this context, you can see even Will Smith very much was, he sees himself as a great guru and as a great teacher. Literally, like, I'm a great guru, I'm a great teacher. My life has been a great example that can be great teachings for people. And again, he's got Mars in Leo too, where it's like, and I'm willing to fight for those things and show those things and even show my battles and whatnot. So this is there's a few others here where, his sun was in Virgo. So again, this was one where we talked about that sun, which is following your inspiration and purpose and higher wisdom and your inner strength and power. It's in Virgo, where it's like, I got to think about it. I got to strategize. Got to, it says your ideas about those energies. So for him, his ideas about that individual power and following his inspiration connect to your responsibilities and a sense of pressure, because this is all Virgo. He's like, yes, my light and power is related to my duties and responsibilities, and is activating a protective stance expressed in a tangible psychological way. So the protective stance has to do with Virgo. So again, you can even see he's very protective of his family, and also very psychological. Like, you can see he very much analyzes like his power and the things that he's done, very intellectual. But there's something that's been quite lacking a little bit. Now, he's got these planets in Leo, so we see he looks kind of like a Leo, because he's been a king of like the movies and whatnot. But his individuality, especially the sun, is also the archetype of masculinity. He follows his light and his power because he's got Mars and Jupiter in Leo, but the sun, underneath it all, we can see deeper. This is why we look at astrology and say, well, what's really going on here? Well, his sun is in Virgo, where it's very intellectual and kind of worried and making sure everything is in line. It's also with the South Node, which is an eclipse point. Again, we're going to talk about this in later videos. By the way, he also has a bunch of planets in Libra, which is very much the sign of compromising and whatnot. So we'll read some of these chart factors with him a little bit more deeply. I'm going to use him as a case study in a couple of the later videos as well. But these sentences, and especially understanding these evolutionary principles of the planets and their relationship to the signs, is really what I wanted to get you focused on right now as you've calculated your own chart. Play with these sentences and with this template here, and leave some comments down here. Leave comments about what you came up with these sentences and these templates, and stay tuned. 2 days I'll be bringing in the houses and show the sensible order of the chart reading and the P and S. Very important thing, the P and S. So in a couple of days, look for the ascendant, evolution of houses, and the big P and S. Again, because we're just looking at planets and signs here. This is planets in signs, but there's another P and S. Once we have an ascendant, a rising sign like we have here, then we also have houses, and things get quite complex, and we need to learn how to handle those things. So until then, consider a few things. All of your planets, those forces of light, are evolving. Just some with less pain and some with more pain. based on those dignities. Some are very close to that current, and some are further away and they take more effort, and you keep mechanically saying those things. Try to understand that karma is not some complicated thing to understand. It's your mental tendencies. Some of those tendencies, some of those things that you mechanically repeat are very evolved, very developed. You're, always hopeful, or you're always practical, or whatever it might be. Other times it's like the same old negative talk. This is shown in the chart. That's really what karma is. Don't make it so complicated. It's your mind and how your mind works. That's what it is. But regardless of how close those planets are to the full current, there's access to your full power every minute of every day. Remember, those sentences about the evolution of the planets and the true nature of the planets, they don't change regardless of where the planet is in the chart. That's your nature. The sun is always evolving from that Libra to the Aries. So would it benefit you to really understand this, like my serious students do? How would that change your life? If you really got this, you're hearing this now, it's like, oh, Sam, that's so great. Okay, next thing. What if your life revolved around this? Like, wow, all right. I feel this total connection to my power. I get it. I get how when I'm not following that vision and I'm looking for other, this is the part that suffers. Okay, the moon, the emotions, I'm driven by, like, I've got to keep feeling these feelings that I'm used to. It's not even that they're evolved. It's just that I'm used to feeling this kind of drama. Oh, okay. Mars, I'm fighting and aggravated about these same things over and over again. Oh, okay. Whatever it might be. How would that change your life? Would you like to help others understand this too? Would you like to learn it and help others understand it too? If so, you can register for the certification course now while you still can. If you can, you just click that link. It shows up here. Again, this is a direct link to the full solution. You can get started for as little as $497 on a payment plan, or pay the whole thing off. It's very easy to do. And 30 days, you get a ton of bonuses. Very easy. Again, I have this page is also really broken out. These are some of the biggest problems that you might face. I have the whole system. This is the P5 system of how it really works. And I've broken this out. It's very systematic, the program itself. I have all of this stuff broken down. You get all of this, all the material at once. 21st century learning model, mentorship, one consistent voice. You have a great community. All the materials taught at the correct pace, more affordable. Again, it's very easy. And then you just register. It's very easy to register and whatnot. So if it's still available and you want to try it, go ahead and do it. So again, my vision for you is to really understand this and have it benefit your life, because you can learn and are meant to know Vedic astrology. And again, watch this place for for a few more updates here, and leave a comment if you like. So again, thank you for your time and attention today, and we'll be in touch.